Hello, welcome to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. In this week's video, we're going to be learning how to crochet the granny triangle. Now, previously, we have worked a granny triangle together, and it is this one that I actually like to call the granny shawl triangle, because this is the typical shape that you see when you want to crochet a granny shawl. We're increasing here and right in the middle. But to work this isosceles triangle, you are actually increasing in 3 points. Also, this is the final shape that we need to crochet our Christmas tree granny skirt. Let's get started. To work up this granny triangle, we're going to be using worsted weight yarn and a 4.5mm crochet hook. Of course, you can use whatever yarn you like to practice, but this is just the materials I have on hand. Now, to start the actual granny triangle, it's very similar to how we start a traditional granny square. We're going to start with a magic loop or a magic knot or a magic ring, however you want to call it. Okay, I'm going to secure it with that chain 1, and then I'm going to start with a stacked single crochet, which is just working a single crochet and then inserting our hook into that left leg, yarning over, pulling up a loop, and closing our single crochet again. This counts as our first stitch and substitutes our double crochet. So now I'm going to do 2 double crochet into the ring. I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to work another granny stitch into the ring. So granny stitches are worked. Our 3 double crochets all worked into the same stitch. Chain 2 again. And I'm going to do another set of 3 double crochet or a granny stitch. Now I'm going to chain 1, pull on the tail to close the ring, and I'm going to close off this round by working a single crochet into that first stitch. And thus we close round 1 and we have a little triangle. Now, because we've done this single crochet to close off our round, we can start our next round, round 2, right in this space. So I'm going to be inserting my hook right into that same space, and I'm going to be working a granny stitch. We start with a stacked single crochet and 2 more stitches to complete our granny stitch. Now, I don't like to chain 1 between my stitches, but you're more than welcome to do so. It really has no bearing in the triangle at the end, just you use up a tiny bit more yarn, which is really of no consequence. So now I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to move on to my next chain 2 space. And in this chain 2 space, I'm going to do what I like to call a granny corner. And the granny corner is simply that we're going to work a granny stitch, which we already know is 3 double crochet. And now we're going to chain 2. And we're going to work another granny stitch. Okay, and now in the next chain 2 space, I'm going to do another granny corner. And we've almost completed this round 2. Chain 2 and do another granny stitch. Okay, and now we're going to complete the corner that we left unfinished right at the beginning, right? Because at the beginning we started with a granny stitch. So now we're going to complete this corner by working a granny stitch. And now chain 1 and close the round by working a single crochet into that first stitch. Again, by working the single crochet into the first stitch, this allows us to be able to start our next round right in a granny corner. So we've just completed round 2 and we can see the triangle shape already. Now we're going to start round 3. Oh, also I just wanted to point out, because I don't tend to do chain 1 between my spaces, my triangle does this, but when you block it, it goes flat. So it's really not concerning. Let's start round 3. So we're going to insert our hook into that space and start with a stacked single crochet. And now we're going to do 2 more double crochets. Okay, and now would be the time that you would chain 1 if you like to chain 1 between your granny stitches. For round 3, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be working granny stitches between our stitches. So this is between a stitch, we would work a granny stitch there, and then we would work a granny corner in a chain 2 space. And that is going to be the repeat for round 3. So I now move on to working a granny stitch between each stitch. Okay, and now we've reached a chain 2 space, so we're going to do a granny corner. Chain 2 and another granny corner. Now we're going to do a granny stitch between the stitches. And again, we've reached a chain 2 space, so we're going to do a granny corner. So this round 3 is the round we're going to keep repeating until we have the rounds that we need for our triangle. Since in our case, the granny triangle is going to be part of a bigger project, we want to make sure that our granny triangle has the same amount of rounds as our large Christmas tree granny square. Okay, so the large Christmas tree granny square that we're making has a total of 6 rounds. So the granny triangle that we're making also needs a total of 6 rounds. Okay, so now to complete the corner, chain 1 and do a single crochet in that first stitch. This completes round 3, which is the round that we're going to be repeating however many times we want a round. In the case that you're following along to make the Christmas tree skirt, what we need for our granny triangle is 6 rounds, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds of our large Christmas tree granny square. And in order to be able to sew them together like so, we're going to need 6 rounds with the granny triangle as well. So let's go ahead and complete one more round for this granny triangle. You already know we start in the corner with a half granny. Okay, we've just completed our half granny corner. Now we move on to work a granny stitch between the granny stitches. Okay, and like I said, if the way this really puckers up before we do any blocking bothers you, then you could just do a chain 1 between the stitches. So for example, I've just completed a granny corner here, then I would do a chain 1 and I would move on to work my granny stitch between the stitches. And then again, after completing the granny square, we would do a chain 1. That chain 1 contributes to making our granny triangle or our granny square larger. So if you're trying to save on yarn, maybe don't do it, but in the sense that it affects the shape, it really doesn't. So now I'm going to do, for example, another chain 1, and I would work my last chain 2 space. Okay, and here I would do Since this is the last round that we're doing here, to close it off, I would actually do a chain of 2 and then I would slip stitch into that first stitch. So here you can see that by adding the chain 1, I've elongated my side, and here is the side without any chain spaces. You can see it just scrunches a little bit together. So if you prefer that it lays flat from the very beginning, you can do a chain 1 between each of your stitches. As always, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you join us for the next one, where we will be joining our squares to create the Christmas tree granny skirt. A peek at our granny square Christmas tree skirt, we're going to start with 4 squares and 3 triangles.